Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I have to make a statement before the meeting starts. My name is Shane Pfeiffer. I'm an orthopedic surgeon here in town. I was asked to run this position years ago. When I was first on the board, I was attacked at every board meeting because of what people thought I was on the board for. Over time, an injustice was identified, was dealt with as a group. I have always spoke with integrity and statements of fact to try to make points to better the system and the school district. There have been numerous times where my statements have been flatly ignored, but that's part of what we consider democracy. I make no apologies for fighting for what I think is the best for our school, our district, and our family. Integrity and respect are two things that I hold in high regard and work with on a daily basis. Recent events of where I have voiced my concerns for events that have occurred in our system have demonstrated that I either no longer have that respect or really never did. I see a change in the way we deal with things that I do not agree with, and I am unable to have an influence in a positive way. When I talk, I speak directly and I speak to the point. People are changing my words and using them to imply things that really have no reasonable way to be interpreted that way. There are people accusing me of being after the jobs of the administration. That is someone else's agenda, and I am being accused for doing it. The agendas of others are now affecting my family. I love my family dearly. I have great children, a great wife, and I love them dearly. I cannot and will not allow a position that I hold to affect them in their daily lives. I am always ready for a good argument, discussion, debate, but not when it starts to affect my family and friends. I have had the ability to make discussions, debates, arguments for what it is and not an emotional roller coaster. Unfortunately, that is not the norm. I do my best to always see both sides of every story, but for the life of me, there's no rational reason for what's occurring, and it's causing me to lose sleep. I owe my patients more than that. People are attacking me based on what they think they've heard, or rumors, or eavesdropping, and claiming that I'm doing something other than what I really am. Unfortunately, these people have never really gotten to know me. My hope to all my haters is that this resolves these issues. I resign my position as board president and as a member of the board of USD 244. Thanks.
Okay, I assume as board vice president, I'll be taking over the continuation of this meeting. Does anybody have any additions to the agenda as presented for the consent agenda? Any discussions or questions?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented. Second.
There's been a motion to second. All in favor, vote on your computer, or I can do a roll call.
You guys can vote on your computer, you'll just have to ask him what his vote is, unless he's online, because then it'll show.
Mike, are you online, or are you able to vote by proxy or by computer?
I'm on the phone.
On phone, so your vote for consent agenda?
Yes. Did you get that?
Yes. Motion passes,
It's 6-0.
6-0.
I'm gonna have to change the roll call, he will show up at everyone, so it's not an explanation, it's not present, so
Okay.
it's 6-0.
Motion passes 6-0. Concerns of Burlington USD 244 patrons. Do you have any? Move on to staff recognition for Dana Hess for the Bronze Award.
Yes, we got a nice award for, and this is for Diana Hess. in regards to, again, a certificate of recognition. This is awarded to Diana Hess for completion of 30 hours of professional development training presented by the Child Nutrition and Wellness Department at KSDE. And I want to read a quick little letter here. It says, congratulations for earning the bronze level award in the professional recognition program sponsored by Child Nutrition and Wellness, Kansas State Department of Education. Your completion of 51 hours of KSDE sponsored training is a significant accomplishment. By taking classes to expand your knowledge and skills, you have demonstrated your commitment and your professionalism. And we are extremely proud of you and this achievement. And so again, Diana's a wonderful food service director. We are so thankful that we have her on board. And she's not able to be here tonight, so we don't get to actually hand her awards, but we'll do that later. So again, congratulations to Diana and her service.
Awesome. Tell her congratulations.
Yes, will do.
And the man behind the camera, Doug Vanderlinden.
Yes.
Uniform there and everything, so.
I have to tell you, this was hard to keep because I knew about this, I want to say late November, early December, and they swore me to secrecy, and I did pretty good, I guess, because again, as you've seen, the Republican did a wonderful story on Doug. We've got the website story for Doug, and again, Doug has some, I'm going to read a quote from Doug here on the public content. It says, this article is much more about our district and our community and the good things we have going than it is about me. It focuses on our people being willing to change and grow and adapt. We have great teams of teachers, staff, administrators, Board of Education members, and community that have rallied behind the great things we have gotten to do with educational technology. It is about the great co-workers I get to work with and the tech team we have with our adopted cousin Tracy, helping out a lot. It is also about the hundreds of kids that I have been blessed to be able to coach over 31 years, and maybe it was closer, who knows, maybe closer to 1,000. So again, Doug, just cannot thank Doug enough. We work very closely together on a number of different things. The fiber board is just, that is the envy of everybody when I talk to my colleagues around the state. What we have in place in Burlington for our fiber connectivity and opportunities that we're able to take advantage of. Again, that speaks very, very well of Doug and the leadership he has. So again, congratulations to Doug. Do you have any comments?
No, you took my comments right there. I get to represent what we've done, and that's what's key. You know, I've worked with teachers. I worked with a great teacher in a cadre one that said something that impacted me greatly. It was we were doing one-to-one, and she said this. She said, "I don't want to lose my flavor in what we're doing with one-to-one technology." And it took a while for that to sink into me as to what she was really saying. But what she was saying is again, we've got a lot of great teachers, and we don't try to change them as much as we try to show them other tools, other things that they can do. And our teachers have bought into that. Our administrators have bought into that in terms of the fact that we're not producing this robot of remote learners and an online army of remote learners. We want kids in front of us because that's where we're our best. And to have said I would stay here 31 years, I thought this was a quick stop along the way. And to be honest, I think this is the only stop along the way. And so I've been blessed with your support. And there have been times I think you've bought into a vision that you couldn't quite see, but you bought into it, you believed in it, so I appreciate it greatly. Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you, Doug.
Yes.
Thank you.
Moving on to administrative reports, BDS. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Charlie, anything to add?
I just wanted to, I think one of the last items on our report is about the middle age literacy grant. That's a grant that it was on a 5-year cycle, and had discussed with that money in place. So we are completing the 5 years. We had a meeting with them recently. The grant awards may look a little different in the future. So one thing I just want to make sure that you guys hear from me is that I want to make sure in the future with those grant dollars that we continue to look to fund the preschool position and the parents as teachers. Those things are pretty essential to the other grants that we have in place with our preschool programs within our school. So I just want to put a plug in for those things for my building.
When will we know if we get them?
The Jones people said their grant, I mean, that's like their top priority to keep funding that. However, what has happened is, we were kind of late to the game. That was kind of the year between, Cliff Williams and Craig Marshall, so we didn't get in on the first half of that, so we got in on the second semester of the year one. And so they fund it by per pupil district. I don't know what their formula is, but that's how districts are allocated money. The second year, we just got whatever amount, we set our budget on that. Then they kind of started in year 3, 4, and 5, they gave us our per pupil money, and then they also started giving us additional allocations. As we reach the end of that grant, the per pupil allocations pretty well are maxed out with those two things I just mentioned to you, the parents as teachers and the liaison. And the additional monies we've used in a variety of different ways. When we met with them on the Zoom meeting a couple weeks ago, they did tell us they're unsure that there will be additional monies, like we'll get the per pupil funding, but they are not anticipating that we'll be getting the additional gift that we've gotten the last few years, that we've done some different things with, so.
Okay. I'm definitely in support, so.
Any other questions or comments?
Kind of tying in real quick with that, there was a letter of support that was going around from the area superintendents today, and I did sign off on that for the Jones Trust funds, hopefully to continue, if nothing else at their original rate, but maybe at their rate that they, like I say, that they continue to increase those funds over the past 5 years. So they've been very beneficial, just very beneficial to the early childhood learning piece, the connection that we've had, again, with our community preschools. So anyway, it's been a good deal. We hope that letter will have some impact with the Jones Trust members.
Okay, moving on to BMS. Questions, comments?
I submitted this, and obviously we were presented. Julie Augustine does a great job with dodgeball for heart, raised close to $4,000. Chloe Gilbert set the new individual record, and so the gym will be named after her. Again, the kids and staff have an absolute blast with it. It's kind of funny, the smack talking that happens before that happens, but I did recruit a couple high school aides since they were there, and they helped us out tremendously, because we're all getting older. And they helped work hard. They did really good.
That's not even fair.
Not fair.
Well, high school kids?
Yeah.
They're making up for us, so it was very well received. Kids did a great job. I mean, it's just a fun environment to be in, seeing the kids' shirts that they have and things like that. So those are a couple items that I didn't get to add because Julie does keep that very secret until the whole school assembly.
That's awesome.
I think they were honorary substitutes that day for a day. Honorary substitute staff members.
Yeah, associates.
Yeah.
They're teachers' aides.
Associates.
Okay, moving on to BHS. Questions or comments?
Did we, I was just gonna, practices started today.
Yeah.
Did we have a big turnout?
Yeah.
More
That's
than
on my
we
next
expected,
report.
or less than we expected?
I think we had, go ahead.
We have 28, 29 for baseball, 21 for softball, 55-ish for track. They just started today. Baseball, softball have been going for a week now, and then golf had 15, 16.
You think everybody's just ready to get outside and do something?
I think that's a lot of us.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, special ed?
Only thing I was gonna point out, I'm very excited that we had interviews, we had multiple candidates apply for a school site position. Although we're losing employee. We had a very good candidate that did an interview and accepted the position with us, so we'll be coming on staff next fall, and we actually have an SLP interview as well coming up this week, so. Those both are exciting because they're hard to fill positions.
Mhm.
The technology report. Has there any, I guess the question, you have here that next month we'll have the technology capital improvement project. Is there anything this year that's maybe enlightened our development of that going forward with what we've learned over the last year? Is it just more of making sure we have one-to-one and make sure the infrastructure's there?
Right, right. Focused on the infrastructure. There are some things that we're looking at potentially moving to the cloud. If you've heard that concept before, some server type things that we're looking at transitioning to the cloud at this point. Mail filtering type things. We very much are believers in the new line product. If you've had a chance to see the new line boards, in fact, you know, we used to have the one in here and we replaced it with just a regular TV, but those new line boards, we'd like to kind of work together with Mr. Marshall and try to do some things with some ESSER funds to accelerate that process a little bit. We're just about done with the middle school. We did first grade wing and we started into the high school, and now we've got 2 staffs that are clamoring to be next.
Regardless if she likes to get last, because then she gets the best stuff.
I'll let Mr. Reed and Darla work through that discussion. So, but you know, I think it's those types of things that we do focus on getting additional laptops, updating the laptops. There'll be some discussion soon about kind of what does the middle school look like. And I brought this up in an administrative meeting the other day, and what I'm talking about is how does that one-to-one continue to look within that building now that we've had kind of almost a full year of it with middle school level kids.
So with the kids taking them home, there's other pieces that happen with them that if the device didn't go home, they wouldn't have the capability of finishing up work. Or often we have kids that are going to do better listening to a book and following along. So Diane constantly is downloading books and things like that. Well, if their device has to stay at school, they don't have that ability anymore. And honestly, we've had very few repair needs.
Very few. It's
been minimal of that. So the kids have done a nice job taking us back and forth.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And
And
I
you
get-
always have something. I mean,
Sure.
even adults are gonna
Right.
break something on
Right.
occasion on accident.
The you know, the biggest challenge we have in our district, and I hear the other districts are, you forgot your device today, you forgot your device, and I happen to know kind of firsthand, 2 of my children work in Topeka Public Schools now, and so my youngest son works actually as a building tech person at Washburn Rural Middle School, and he said the biggest part of his day is, where's your Chromebook? Where's your Chromebook? You know, our biggest challenge is you didn't charge last night. You know, and so that's a challenge, and that's responsibility, and so forth. And so, like I said, I'm with Matt. If you would have asked me 5 years ago, did I see a point where 5 to 8 would be a full-blown take-home? I may never have seen that. We had just, if you remember, we were just doing the year 2 of a pilot for the 8th graders to go home at semester because of the computer apps class, and then all of a sudden we all went home. And so, you know, that in certain cases, normal won't look like the old normal, but I really do think those discussions will continue on. So those are the big things, Lucas, is that the infrastructure, and then new lines, and then as well, what do we do to continue to expand and keep that one-to-one focused and growing.
And Doug and I have had a lot of conversations because, again, the new lines, I've shared with you in board reports pictures of the picture, and you see a picture of a Promethean board, it's not the same, you see it in the pictures that I take and share that with you. So tying in though, but one thing that Doug and his tech staff have done really good with new lines is that training piece, the cadre training piece, so that the teachers, when they get them, they are effective with them and they are useful. And so, for example, we could probably buy some more over the summer, but would we be able to train the staff in their usage? If we bought like 10 or 12 more, that's extra additional work for the tech staff to have to make sure that they're installed and usable, and then them to train the staff. So it's kind of a balancing act. How many more can you do, but also train them, and then the time it takes for them to do over the summer, because it seems like those summer hours go fast and summer days go really fast. So that's what we're trying to figure out, you know, exactly how much we can do.
Okay, any other questions for technology report? Do a superintendent's report.
Okay, the first thing I shared with you, again, the capital outlay working document that Tracy and I continually work on, as well as administrators and directors helping give me input on that document throughout the year. I just highlighted and put a few different items on there. Tracy's pulling up the document there. Again, this is what we're looking at during this year. You can see some of the things that we've already done and completed, and then some of the things that we're looking at doing. There still may be some shuffling here as time goes on. So one thing that we're looking at is the football stadium, the LED light project out there potentially. And this was something I was hoping to be able to wait and do one more year and wait and do this next year. But because in the evaluation of lighting, so like about this time during spring, we evaluate our lights at the baseball and softball fields because we've got to make sure we're well lit there. And then the football field usually in the spring, just to see if we had any go out over the winter, that type of thing. So fortunately, softball's in good shape, no lights are out. Baseball has about 6 out right now, and then the football stadium has 7 out. And so having said that, if you bring in a truck to come in and do that repair, there's a service charge there for the truck to be on site. Then they charge you by the hour, and there's 2 different guys there that come with that truck, and then you're replacing their old halide, halogen type lights. They are not very cost effective, cost efficient. As you can see, obviously with our gyms in elementary, middle, and high school, we put LED lights there in those gyms, and it's just made a world of difference. And it's a lot less expensive, and it's a much better well-lit project. So we're kind of holding off on this football stadium project to see if we can do it this year, not based on, we've got roof bid coming up on Wednesday. So cross your fingers and hope for the best for the middle school roof bid, and we'll have some information very soon. We may end up having a couple, 1 or 2 special board meetings between now and I'm going to say April's meeting, because we've got a few different projects going on, not only with the roof bid, but we also have some the daycare remodel projects going on. So we're going to try to put them together and maybe just have 1 meeting, but it may require 2 meetings. It will just kind of keep you informed. So the situation, and we talked with and Doug Rohr was before he resigned his position. We're getting Brad Griffin up to speed with that, and then with Dave and myself being involved in that decision and talking with you and sharing this with the board, and Margarito as well. Margarito Solano has been involved with the decision as far as moving forward with an LED project. If you keep bringing in a truck every year, 2, 3, 4 years, and it's a $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 cost, depending upon how many lights, how many hours, you start to put in bad money for these old style lights, and you really end up getting kind of really, like I say, you get upside down with the project instead of doing it all at once. So again, we're working on this. We've got a possible, an idea, a possible plan, and it's something that they can still do over the summer. They said, is it something we have to let you know now on? They said, no. You can get your roof bid, determine where you're going to be at with your financial situation. And they said, even if you have an approval, I'm going to say, at the April or May board meeting, then we can still come in and do the project. It's about a 2-week project for them to come in and just redo all the lights at the football stadium. Again, reason being is it could just end up being 1 year after the next, $20,000 to $30,000 every time, and that's just, again, not a good financial situation. Questions on kind of what we're thinking about? And I shared this with you in Friday notes. And
So the lights aren't just a matter of changing from a halogen bulb to an LED bulb? It's
No.
gotta have an adapter.
No, Dave and
I hit up some of the resources at Wolf Creek with that same idea. And we've done a lot of the big overhead lights, we've just changed the fixture, just changed the light bulb out there, the fixture up there. Our contacts that build, that we're doing these big overhead lights said that you'll get a inferior product that won't last as long, and the retro is not gonna save you money.
Yeah.
They say just go ahead and do it all.
Change that.
I was thinking the same thing, so I tried it.
And Dave and Stacy sat in on the presentation. We had a gentleman come in and do a presentation just on what what it would look like, how it'd be different, and then just the project in general. And it was pretty amazing. You guys can, I mean, it's again cost savings, better, well lit product, and yeah, it's different than just changing out a bulb in your home. There's the focus and the angle. No, good question.
I said the same thing, I'm like, those are expensive light bulbs.
Yes.
Holy cow.
So anyway, again, we're gonna look at this after the roof bid comes in, and I'm gonna give you information quickly as soon as we find out. It's a busy week here with roof bid and plumbing bids for the daycare and so on and so forth. Again, there'll be some flooring and carpeting projects going on again throughout the district. Middle school library renovation, we're gonna have some bookshelves there that are failing and falling apart, and the carpet's very, very, very old and dated, so while we're doing that, we're also gonna paint in there. We have seen a huge increase in circulation at the high school with the new library renovation there. The middle school, we're gonna do the same thing, and most likely the elementary school at some point in time as well. Who knows when that will come in. The permanent wall project, we're gonna look to do some of those at the last, I guess the second of two phases, if you will. We did middle school and a couple of walls at the high school 2 years ago. We'll probably look to try to finish that up. We'll get a proposal on that project and go from there. And again, the BMS roof project opens, bid for the roof project opens on March 10th. And then some, possible air conditioning units and chillers at the elementary school, depending upon, how the funding and finances go. And we're still trying to figure out, Tracy and I are working a lot in regards to the ESSER funds, and that's the COVID money, if you will, the government COVID money. We're trying to figure out what we can and what we cannot use on certain things. So for example, if you put in like little air purifiers, which we found from ACS, America Automated Control Systems, our HVAC company, they said those in-room, little air purifiers, they are not, they don't work. You need to invest in your infrastructure like we've done with our HVAC. So how can we if we buy those air purifiers, well, yeah, you could use for ESSER funds potentially for that, but it's not investing in your infrastructure, bringing in fresh air in your HVAC systems, and being able to take care of your whole system and your whole building. So that's what we want to try to do again. We don't want to, after COVID is over, we don't want to have a garage full of 500 air purifiers that are no longer useful and they're worth 2 cents on the dollar or whatever because nobody really needs them anymore. So anyway, we're trying to figure out exactly what the funding is, what we can and what we cannot use funding on, and who knows if we can use some money on HVACs. It's still questionable. And so anyway, questions on the projects?
When will you have to have that money spent by?
2023 for the ESSER 2 fund, so we've got some time. And again, we're trying, and down here a little bit later, I'll just skip the second item, go to the third item. Those ESSER funds, again, we want to try to focus on student learning and the improvement, again, of the areas where students and staff are. So if you skip we'll come back to the tuition reimbursement program here in a second. Again, what we're trying to do, and we talked a little bit about this at the linkage, we're trying to figure out, again, what we can do this summer and maybe extend our summer learning academy into possible credit recovery scenarios. Because we do have this money where because we've been lucky to have students on site the whole year pretty much so, other than the 1 week at the high school. Our gap isn't quite as big as other school districts that haven't had kids on site. So we still want to try to, if we can make up some ground here using these ESSER funds over the summer, whether it's been because of the gap of COVID or just some kids maybe just a little behind over the years, we want to try to do as much as we can. So we're maybe looking at expanding our summer school and summer learning academy into maybe K through 12 and offering some credit recovery opportunities and see where we go. Darla is also working on a grant for the after-school program, trying to tie in some summer learning options there as well. So we have a schedule, we're waiting to see if we get the grant. And as soon as we find out if we get the grant, then we'll share that schedule. But we're trying to expand our summer opportunities for our kids. And if that's the way we make up some ground, even though, like I say, we weren't off-site as much, that's a huge positive for our students and our families, so. Questions on that third item? We'll go back to the second item here in just a second. Okay, let's get back up to tuition reimbursement program. I just wanted to talk about this. This is something we started in 2018, and you have the classified and certified guidelines there listed. I want to talk to you just a little bit about this, and we've had 3 candidates in the program, and we've had one that has completed and is now again working for us. We have one that did not complete. They ended up moving and leaving, and they ended up having to pay back, you know, the fees for the tuition and paid that back in full. And then we have one more that's just working on completing the program. Will be finished, I think, in December of 2021. And, you know, again, just want to talk a little bit and discuss, you know, if what you as a board are thinking or hearing. We have to make a decision, you know, moving forward. I need to send out some information on this program. A positive for this 2 years ago is we felt like we were going to have a lot of retirements. And I guess a positive is that we haven't had as many retirements as we anticipated. With that being said, when we have these candidates, we want to try to employ them. Obviously, if they come through their program, do a good job for us. We want to try to employ them because, again, we put some money in, we've invested in these people, and we've grown our own. And then we want to have them at least pull 2 years of duty for us, as we've stated in the guidelines. Again, on a positive, we haven't had as many retirements. So will that next year, will that change? Who knows? If you do away with the program and then you get 4, 5, 6 retirements, and then you wish you would have had those grow your own opportunities. So it's again, a crystal ball, we truly don't know. We just truly don't know coming down the pipe. But again, I just didn't know what your thoughts or comments are. And again, because I want to get some information out to our staff if they're interested in in this program, if we want to continue this. Yes.
So I don't feel like we discontinue it just because we don't have anybody apply this year or maybe even next year. We still, you know, could keep it as an option, or somebody could be thinking about it for future, or, I mean, just, you know, just because we don't have someone this year, or maybe we will, but I'm just saying, I don't think we just discontinue, in my opinion, that's just my opinion.
Well, I'll say in full disclosure, both of them are now mine. So one was my son, and the other one, he got married to the other one, so interesting enough, but it has been a really good program for them. I do think there was some bumps along the way, quite a few that were, I guess, totally not understood by both sides. So they had to work through that. So I think that if we were to do it moving forward, you could certainly get information from them on how that went, and I would make it a smoother process for somebody else. I mean, both programs, one went through one program, one went through another, so they were both 2 really kind of different programs.
Yes.
Do we tell them what program they have to go through, or do they get to choose?
No, good question there. No, we don't. It has to be a credentialed university where they'll come out of it with a license. There are some schools, unfortunately, that they are not on the up and up with you, and they'll take your money, but when you're done, you won't have a license. So again, each program is a little different. They started, again, in 2018, some universities started to get into this because they saw a teacher shortage, and there were people that went down a different career path, and we wanted to, and then maybe they went back to school and worked as a paraprofessional or a teacher aide, and they wanted to get into teaching, and so there were, again, universities trying to create the program on the fly. And so that's something, like I say, we want to have a discussion with them. Emporia State's really good to talk. They connect with me at least once a year on some different things, and we talk, and usually it's 2 or 3 times a year. I know last year we only connected one time. COVID was obviously a reason for that, but yeah, we want, again, with the program, we have 2 candidates now. One is working for us, so that's a success story, and one hopefully, come December, will end up, being able to take on, duties for us. And then the one that didn't complete paid us back every penny when they left before their commitment was over. So in that respect, you think about, we have one success story, one heading towards a successful end, and one we got money back.
I think it's, go ahead.
No, I just wondered, like, so if they complete it and we do not have a spot anywhere for
Well,
them.
And you heard it, linkage, substitutes. We need substitutes, something fierce.
So then we just,
We could possibly end up with a substitute list. We could possibly, who knows, end up, it's possible we could hire them as a district substitute. And guarantee them daily sub job, if you will, that type of thing. There are those options that we do have. So, yeah, our substitute list is less than what I think there are maybe some older substitutes that were on the list, that during COVID, they were more cautious, so, they chose maybe not to come back. So again, our substitute list is really, it's minimal right now, and at the very least, it could be a full-time substitute potentially. And so, and again, there's sometimes where there's a semester, like where you need a semester, where you need a long-term sub situation.
right.
Things like that can happen, so. Good questions.
The, second last bullet there talks about programs for classified students looking for certified teachers. And right now, the one that we have that's the success is still in para mode, right? So it's that move looking to be made next year at the middle school for that 6th grade position then?
There are, again, an interview process is happening with the middle school, and that's the first domino in the fall. They are working on that, right now with the interview process.
It'd be great to have that, someone on the bench come right in and fit that
Right.
spot, right? That's why we pay that money, that's good.
Right.
We do have to open the positions up to interview, but it's very possible, again, and there might be more than one other position, who knows, come up as time goes on, so good question. Dr. Thorpe, I don't know if you are still there, if you have any comments.
I'm still here, I'm listening.
Okay, good enough. I'm kind of hearing that you want to go ahead and, is that
I think
correct?
it's something that, it sounds like we don't want to discontinue, but, go forward with it, looking at, we already tried to perceive what we thought were gonna be retirements in the future, and then maybe some of those didn't happen, but make sure we have someone that's wanting to move into a position at the high school or the middle school or wherever it is,
Right.
that's want to pursue those jobs.
Well, I think the biggest part about it, it's a known quantity. It's someone you already know in the system.
Yeah.
And hopefully you can keep somebody here, you can keep somebody that has kids here. I think it just is really grow your own. Exactly what you said. So,
Yeah.
I just think it's a great program. I think that now that kind of some of the bugs are worked out of it, I think you could actually sit down with somebody and talk better with them, because this was really a deal, really didn't understand the whole finance piece and all that stuff. So, what do you mean when your student teaching you can't work and you can't get any money coming in? Oh, geez. So I think that's all worked out now. You can kind of figure it out.
Right, we worked through that, yes. And with last year, nobody applying for it, and again, and we put out information, people chose not to. Who knows, again, with COVID and the situation, they may think differently this year, so. I will go ahead and share information out with the district, and 243, 245, especially co-op employees can apply for that as well. I'll put that out this week sometime and see, who knows, we may or may not get anybody interested, who knows? Okay. All right, I'm going to go, let's see, the next item down, and Haley Gifford is here. Haley is our new daycare director. It's like, I told her, I said, when you first came on the first day, it's like drinking water from a fire hydrant. We're getting after it fast and furious, and Haley's done a terrific job. We have, at the meeting before she got hired, we talked a little bit about the name of the daycare. So USD 244 Daycare Center is what you guys had thought about. Haley has an idea, possibly looking at a different name, and again, the option there that she came up with was Burlington Early Learning Center. And I don't know if you want to speak to that, Haley, at all, you sure can.
I just feel like daycare is kind of a broad term, and we really want to focus on kindergarten readiness and getting them ready to go to school. And while we will be birth through 5 years old about, we are going to focus on learning, and it's not just going to be daycare. So I think that early learning center, and it sounds a little easier.
You know,
It's a little easier to say Burlington Early Learning Center than USD 244 daycare.
I like it better.
I like it.
Yeah, I like that it doesn't say USD 244.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm afraid people will think it's just for the staff.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
If it's
That's
USD.
kind of like the rec center says USD 244 on the side, that's their own budget, their own board, and their own everything. So I like that is, they don't just see 244 on it, called our lot for the daycare that's right there in the parking lot. So
Right.
I like that, it says Burlington, I think that's a good idea.
Me too.
And with
I like
the
the
staff idea is great too.
Do we have to vote? We don't have to vote.
No.
Right.
Sounds good.
So,
Hunter?
are we gonna cover up the concrete sign that says
Yes.
administrative office?
We're gonna take that down. It's going away as soon as we can get some, we're actually gonna probably take that down at the time they start working on the daycare playground. So, yep. Because some people may still think that's the district office, so we're gonna get rid of that soon.
Is it a limestone?
It's a concrete block. It's.
And before, and I'll tell you what, I'm gonna skip, I guess I'm skipping around here, I'm gonna go down to the last item, and Tracy, if you do this up while Haley's still here, she may leave.
No.
This is a video that we watched, we had an in-service training, we were supposed to go to Garden City, but the weather was dicey, and we ended up doing it here in the boardroom. There's a video called No Small Matter, and it was 1 hour and 10 minutes. We started off this conference with 1 hour and 10 minute video, and it was powerful. I mean, it was really powerful. I'm gonna show you the 2-minute clip here. And Tracy will cue that up. It was just, it's a wow moment, I guess.
Wait, no, Cookie, we're in the middle of doing a documentary film?
Documentary.
Yes.
It's documentary.
Babies in the beginnings of humanity grew up in these very rich extended families. And of course, the world that we live in now is a very, very different world.
Minimum wage just isn't cutting pay bills.
We could afford to put him in preschool. Johnny's living all day and I'm living all night. This notion of the American dream is fundamentally not happening.
Putting her life in someone else's hands means so much.
1 year old, can't say anything, he doesn't sit up.
When those markers are set in childhood, they impact the way our bodies work for the rest of our lives.
Ignoring this, that's a disaster for us as a society.
This is not the way it's supposed to be.
We have a deeper understanding now of how important these early years are and why.
We're unlocking the secrets of the brain. First time in history. We never had a way to look into a baby's brain before.
What's going on up there is rocket science.
I want to be her Miss Honey. I want to be the one that's like,
You can do anything.
Every child should have access to high quality early education.
If we get this right, our country will look dramatically different.
Oh.
Whatever you want to call it. Childcare, preschool, home. We have to do it everywhere.
My God. That's funny.
That video, like I say, is 1 hour and 10 minutes long. The actual whole movie, the documentary, as Cookie Monster said there, it's just very, very powerful and very impactful. And like I say, it's going to make a huge difference. It may be one of, if not the best thing that we've ever done, I think. And we're excited. We're actually doing interviews now and looking to get staff on board, and it's really, it's exciting to see some really good people. That one lady that's a teacher in there was just so, I mean, she was as excited as the kids. That's the type of person we want, and we're anxious to get them on board with us, so yeah. Okay, backing up to the last item on my list, I want to talk a little bit about temperature taking. in our buildings and our buses before school. We started to have this discussion with our administrators and directors, and okay, how many are we seeing when kids and adults are coming into the building? And administrators and directors, you guys can verify with me, it is minimal, like 5 or less the whole first 27 weeks of school. Correct me if I'm
We had
wrong.
3 in August, and it was 2 students. One parent came in, stood there for, I don't know, less than 5 minutes, took her temperature again, it was fine. Another one was waiting for practice to occur, standing out in the sun. By the time I went and got the handheld, got them, they were fine. And same with the other student was actually in the morning coming to school, was in the 7th and 8th grade entrance. They came down, we got the handheld, did it again, they were fine. So we've had 3, those are all in August.
Elementary.
None.
We had one.
I think we had 1 in August. So with this being said, we started to have discussions, is this a step that we can look to eliminate? Because we've got staff coming in early, and we've got staff that can only come in certain doors in the buildings. And, we started to have these discussions with our administrator and director group, and then shared out with Lindsay Payer and Dr. Schloyer. And they shared with us some information, and basically, Dr. Schloyer's comment was because children don't typically report fevers with COVID, they don't have fevers like maybe adults would. It is not necessary to screen students for fevers any longer. This is what he feels like. He said, however, screening adults should continue through the remainder of the school year. Fever can be a little more common symptom among adults. So that's what his recommendation would be. And again, we tried to make it very open and upfront. We've had our COVID advisory committee meetings. We've shared information with the board, obviously you guys, as well as our administrators and directors having discussions about these items related to COVID, and then we put our information on the website. So having said that, it almost seems like this is a step really that's not needed. Our attendance rate is incredibly, our absence rate is just minimal. We are right now in each building under 3% absence rate for the last, I don't know how many weeks. You guys can report. It's almost scary how good our absence rate has been with the pandemic. We haven't really seen flu-like scenarios occur in our building at all. Probably a lot of it has to do with social distancing, masking, washing hands. A lot of this is it's very important. So again, trying to think about, moving forward, what does make sense. I would like to talk with our COVID advisory committee, and I shared that information that we're at least considering this. I usually try to update them once a month. I think James and Stacy get those emails because you're our board representatives on the COVID advisory committee.
So is it a practice, or, we didn't make it a policy, right?
It's our guidelines, our practice right now. It's not a policy about temperature taking right now. So again, we're at least considering this, and maybe we'll look to have, if you guys, depending on how you feel as a board, look to have a meeting. If you're saying yes, move forward, we may have a COVID advisory committee meeting before spring break. That could be something we could get out to the public if that's our direction. Again, our message here is that, again, this is not, it's not like we're getting rid of all of the items on our list. We're not just going back to quote unquote normal, but it's a start in the right direction because our data shows I think people at home too, I want to compliment the public. I think people at home are doing a very good job at assessing the kids if they're not feeling well before they get to school. And I think that's beneficial to everybody. They don't have to come and pick them up if they dropped them off on a bus or something like that. They have to go get them back from the bus, a bus stop or whatever the case might be. Or they have to come back to school if kids are walking or riding a bike. So anyway, I'll leave it up for you guys now for comments or discussion.
My comment would be that this wouldn't start until the executive order for the state disaster was lifted by the governor, right?
Well,
Because her executive order goes and is extended through March 31st, so we couldn't stop doing this until then because their executive order says that we're going to do it.
that is, well, that's true.
It's true. I just want to say that we can't listen to the county health guidance trump what the executive order is. Even if the doctor feels that way, that's fine. It says very blatantly in that executive order that all people entering the building will have their temperature checked the first day. So I don't see how we would get away with that, with changing that between before March 31st. Now, if it's lifted March 31st,
Well,
okay, I get that.
again, it could be an after spring break thing, or it could be a March or an April 1 day thing. There's a lot of districts and administrators, you guys can chime in. As a matter of fact, last night about 9 o'clock, I got a survey from one of the superintendents, and the questions were about temperature taking and who's masking and who's not masking, and other different scenarios, I mean, that are listed in regards to COVID protocol. So I'll probably get these results probably tomorrow or Wednesday, hopefully. I said, please share these results with me and I'll share them with you on Friday notes. But again, there are some districts we know of that aren't using masks at all anymore, in spite of the governor's orders.
It's kind
So
of
do
like
we
the
risk
school
our funding
starting.
doing that?
I think it's possible, but again, it's a balance between counties and states, and what is a dance. I guess it's a dance right now, and what some people believe, you know.
County lies in the state.
Yeah, I know.
Was that,
The
yeah,
county can opt out, for example, out of a mask mandate. The county can opt out of certain things, you know.
was
that
the
governor
executive
says.
order included with the school start date? And we didn't-
It was, well, it was, again,
Was separate maybe?
I'm trying to remember exactly. It was the executive order, I need to pull that, let me pull that
Yeah,
up
it's
here real
in
quick
there.
and see.
I forgot.
I mean, if we've talked to other districts, what do they say? Are we all just ignoring that executive order, or are they just ignoring it and say we don't care?
We've had a couple districts that have come to play us during the winter, and I dealt with some of their fans, and they're like, well, we don't have it in Lebec County.
Yeah.
They don't have it, and their administrator said, it's gonna be difficult, I'll remind them. But he said, we don't have it, so our kids are without masks, we're practicing without masks.
That's scary, if we just start picking the rules we want to follow. Trying to bottom up. I mean, some of the rules, if we want to follow and not follow, I'm sure would be fine. I don't know, is that what we're suggesting, that we just do that, or we wait and see if the emergency disaster declaration's over March 31st?
Right,
If it is, then.
and that is, I mean, that's a date we may wanna look at, is that April 1 date, if you will. I mean, again, I think a lot's gonna depend too on what the advisory committee feels like. I mean, if that's a step they feel like is really important. The data again shows that it's not as important. And again, who knows if the governor will come out and make a statement and adjust the executive order. When I look at the executive order here, I'm trying to pull it up here, it says it will become effective August 10, 2020 and remain in force until rescinded or until the statewide state of disaster emergency extended by House Bill 2016 enacted during June 20 until it expires, whichever is earlier. So I guess we'll see again. It could be an April 1 date for us. It's very possible.
The 25th of January is extended to March 31st of this year.
Okay.
So when that expires, I would assume.
Yeah, and maybe that, just something that you're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking
Because
at.
if the advisory council comes back and says, hey, it'd be a good deal, maybe that's the date that you guys make, you say, well, we wanna keep it going until, then, or we could, you know, it just kind of, I think it was just giving you guys the data as to what we were doing, and then you guys, along with the advisory, would be the ones that come up and set the date, because we weren't gonna set the date, we needed you guys to kind of look at it.
Well, because I mean, if we haven't, it hasn't been taking children's temperatures, hasn't been catching kids that are
Because
testing.
did any of those figures end up in COVID?
Right, and so,
Anybody have?
I'm trying to remember, mine's back in August.
yeah, and then I think with it getting into then April and May, you're gonna have those kids that are walking, riding their bikes. So you're gonna have the same thing in August.
They're
They're
hot.
gonna be hot, and
Correct.
then we're gonna have to take their temperature, they're gonna wait 5 minutes, they get to class late, take their temperature again, they're fine, and
They didn't do
then,
that at work. They had to tell people to shut their heat off because they had their heat on their fever. They
Yeah.
had a fever like 104 and
so I
it
think
wasn't
we're
even.
gonna have the same
So maybe if we,
April, May thing we
if
have.
the advisory committee looks at this, maybe it's an April 1 date. I did have 2 advisory committee members respond to me, and one said this seems like a really good, choice to move forward. It's a step in the right direction. Plus, it seems like it's not, it's not, I don't like, he didn't say it was wasted time, but he said it didn't make sense with your data. Another person responded about, and this was one of our staff members that's on the committee, said, my only concern is about masks. Kids walking into the building and don't have masks on. So we gotta figure that step out, and that step could be one, if you don't have a mask on, you report directly to the office to get a mask, or two, we could give masks, supplies of masks to the teachers, and when kids walk in the building, they get a mask at the classroom. You're taking a little chance with kids walking through the hall, but.
I think kids are so used to it at this point. You know, if you have them there, or you have, a station of masks or whatever, I mean, kids know when they go in a building, they put on a mask, I mean, it's literally every year, their lives for.
They honestly won't even enter the building, they're like.
I know who that email came from, it's from my building. We probably, the people that run our temperature check stations, and we got an email recently that said, we cannot keep supplying masks, please try to send masks. I mean, they're giving out still probably 15 plus masks a day. So, I mean, we can still have somebody sitting there. I personally do not think elementary kids can man the mask basket themselves. They're gonna have their hands all over everybody's mask. And somebody's still gonna have to do it.
Well, I mean, if you have one person handing out masks at the
Yeah, and that's what we
elementary,
have in the
then.
temperature station. I mean, this door has one person manning the temperature station. That person would be happy to keep doing that.
Right.
I mean, that's not the issue. It's just, I think they're thinking if that's not what they're gonna be doing there, I think the question is, are you going to, you have to have a mask in the building. If they're coming in off that, having a drop off, they're coming quite a ways to the building without a mask if somebody still isn't there manning the mask station, so. I think
Well,
that's
don't we
the
have
question.
someone out there all the time at the Hug and Go?
Well, Miss Stewart is outside most of the time.
Just
Gotcha.
would need to remind kids, hey, make sure you have your mask on as you enter the building, and
But
so,
she does that now,
Right.
it's just
Right.
that they don't have
Have
one.
them
They have to get one
right.
when they get inside the building.
So I think as we've evolved, we certainly see the science, as they call it, has evolved to where it says that kids are not necessarily the problem. But I also agree with Lucas in the point that says, well, we have it, and so maybe the governor will look at that. But if everybody sees the CDC guidance that just came out today, that's gonna change everything. I mean, and it's gonna come all the way down to kids. The CDC guidance said today, so I'd be more concerned to know how many teachers, and I don't know that I would know that, how much staff was vaccinated. What's the percentage of staff vaccinated? The CDC guidance came out today that talked about, on adults at least, for, if you had vaccinated, parents and your grandkids, were not vaccinated, you could still visit now without a mask. And they're opening that up. And so we're looking at that, some of that long-term care and all that stuff. So I think probably in the next month or two, you may see a lot of changes. And I think it may be right to say that maybe we don't need to take the temperatures anymore, but I know Stacy could probably attest to, we do take temperatures at hospitals still, and we have caught some people, mostly adults, that have had temperatures that we've caught on, not really kids.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like our data in the healthcare world is very similar to what you guys are seeing in that we're not really seeing fevers in kids, we're seeing snotty noses in kids. Whereas adults, we are seeing fevers or we're seeing a change in temperature. Everybody's so used to taking their temperature every day now. If I'm normally 97 and today I'm 99.1, that's a red flag just because I've went up from my normal baseline kind of a thing. So we have caught some as far as that goes, but kids typically, we're not really seeing a fever. I'm going to speak out of both sides of my mouth on this, but I do agree with Lucas in that we can't do anything until we know for sure by the state that we're okay to do something. I feel like we're okay to get rid of temperatures, but I also just want to bring up the caution in that we're getting towards allergy season, people are burning fields, we're seeing lots of coughs, we're seeing lots of snotty noses, and that fever might be the only determining factor that tells us that it's not an allergy. So just to caution people on that, keep that in mind, but I'm a fan to get rid of it if we can eventually once the state says that we're able to.
And that's the point I want to try. I agree. I'm all for whatever. I'd like to hear kind of some professional opinions about schools that say they don't have to mask or whatever. And that's on them, I guess, but I agree with if we don't need to take temperatures and it's not showing or pinching anything, that it makes sense. I mean, but, I don't know, another good point too is that outage is gonna bring 800 people to this area that bring not just COVID, but all kinds of great stuff to the area. So, maybe we'll just catch that bug, something or the other, so, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
However, we are testing
Yes.
Thank the Lord.
all employees that come in prior to.
At least when they get there, they don't have it. They might get it tomorrow, but I will have to see them.
Would you like me to set up an advisory committee meeting just to have that discussion about our protocols in general and then as well as specifically have some discussion?
I don't think we can do a whole lot until after,
Right.
you know,
But-
yeah.
But like,
But with a possible
CDC's
April
coming out with, I do believe there's changes too.
Yeah.
I think if you give it to the month of March, I think you may see a lot of changes from the
Okay.
CDC. I mean,
So-
so,
We may just hold off on this for.
because they were talking about literally the CDC today where they did that, but they didn't change anything on their plan. And they said they believe that's coming also, so.
Okay. We'll go ahead, we'll hold stand pat for right now, but we'll continue to monitor what we're hearing as far as from CDC as well as maybe the state as well, and we're gonna find out more information potentially here in the next few weeks. Okay, that's all I have. Anything question-wise? Okay.
Move on to board member items, board reports.
Ensure intersection. I reached out to Luke Silva, while we're meeting here. We do need to pass a resolution for a board vacancy, and since Jane was the president, Lucas automatically now becomes president, and you need to nominate a vice president.
I nominate James Higgins. Do we have to have a second or anything?
Yeah, you probably need to make a motion and vote on that.
I'll make a motion that James Higgins is vice president of USD 244 Board of Education.
I'll second. If you're.
I'm winging this, so you're gonna have to roll call vote, because I didn't add any motion. You're just gonna have to go through your.
Monique, aye.
Stacy, aye.
Lucas, aye.
Selena, aye.
Higgins, aye.
All right, did you hear all that?
I didn't hear who you nominated.
James Higgins.
It's Stacy?
James Higgins was nominated by Monique.
Thanks, okay. Aye.
So motion passes 6-0.
And Lucas, you will need to see me after the meeting, because. Well, the issue is, we have payroll this next week, he cannot sign the checks because he's no longer a board member. This has never happened before, and Luke at KASB said, you may have to hand sign all those checks. Because we have an electronic signature, there's no way we can turn that around. Luckily, the certified run has very few paper checks, so it's not as big of a deal, but anyways, we can talk after the meeting.
Okay. There's,
Do you have the resolution for the?
Oh, shoot, yes, I have that up, we need to pass that real quick, hold on. Let me pull it over there. This will allow us to publish in the newspaper. So you will need to pass, you'll have to fill in the blanks with our district, the county, and then the Coffee County Republican as the newspaper. I didn't have time to type it in there, we'll roll call vote again.
And what district?
244.
No,
position.
District.
Oh, his position is 4, he was expiring in 2021, you don't need that for this, we'll put that in the newspaper. Yeah, sorry, I was like, 244.
Well, I didn't mean that.
We knew what you meant. So someone just needs to read that resolution, and then you guys can go vote on it.
Whereas a vacancy exists in the membership of the Board of Unified School District number 244.
Coffee County, Kansas, and whereas KSA 25-2022 authorizes the Board of Education to fill such vacancies no sooner than the 15 days following publication of notice in the newspaper having general circulation in the school district. Be it resolved that the clerk of the Board of Education of Unified School District number 244, Coffee County, Kansas, shall cause such notice to be published in the Coffee County Republic.
Second.
And roll call vote.
Selena, aye.
Lucas, aye.
Stacy, I.
Only guy.
James, aye. Mike?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Katie, I'll need a spot in the newspaper tomorrow.
Business.
Motion to recess into executive session for 10 minutes?
I'd say 20.
20 minutes regarding a student issue under the exemption relating to actions adversely or favorably affecting a student under coma, and to return return to this room at the end of that time, including Craig Marshall, Stacy Reed, Dave. Actually, we stay in this room. We stay.
Yes.
Who's second?
Second.
That's a roll call vote.
Oh,
Mike?
well, you could vote on your computer now. That was in there. Yeah, that one's in there. I just, yeah,
So Mike just has to answer roll.
yes. Just ask him.
Dr.
Okay.
Thor.
Mike, we have an executive session for 20 minutes vote.
Did you say aye, Mike?
I did.
Okay,
Okay.
I thought I heard it, but, okay, so it's 8:06. We are going to
I'm following you.
Yes, I will. I'll get it for everybody.
Oh.
So I'll come back and get them.
Oh, there's only two, Stacy, or Tracy.
Is there more water? Is there more?
I don't know.
Is there more water in there? I'm gonna put it right there.
And then what?
It's not just like punching people down the gut.
Yeah, everything else we got coming. Yeah. I know since I've been covering, we had VC and Lance Lake. Although I think VC is really good because he's moving it. I left my phone running while I didn't even realize it. I think it's because I was taking a nap and I was home from work at just after 5, and I was taking a nap because I kind of had a headache. And so I set my alarm so I wouldn't accidentally sleep too long or something. And I think I brought my alarm back down after that. I just sent Mark a text message to let him know that that's coming. So I think he might still be over there because he was saying this afternoon that he still had shit to do before they get in this paper, so he might probably still over there. So. Okay.
I did last time, I rewatched that, how big I carried it last time wrong. Carried it right with it, okay guys.
Dr. Court, do we need to go back in?
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
I can add it.
Just kind of remind
You're fine.
It's gonna be the same one, but can you guys see it?
We got the, okay, you got it.
No, I know you got that there, but you can't see my screen.
Motion to recess an executive session for 5 minutes regarding student issue under the exception relating to actions adversely or favorably affecting student or under coma, and to return to this room at the end of that time, including Craig Marshall, Stacy Reed, and Dave Watkins.
Second.
And we're gonna roll call. Or we vote on here?
You can do it on the computer, it should be there.
And Mike, we got the vote for 5 more minutes.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes. Okay, the board's back in open session. Next item agenda is contract approvals and appointments. This is kind of a carryover from where we had a special meeting to approve the daycare, I guess, early learning center, playground. And there was a carryover topic where we would discuss the financial for that. And so, we're going to start us off there.
Sure, exactly, and I shared with you some information in the public content of board docs. Again, this is kind of what we talked about at the special meeting that we had to approve. And you guys had some questions on, would we use some capital outlay, district capital outlay, because this playground would in fact be basically a joint playground, be able to use by the preschool, the 3 and 4 year olds at the elementary school as well. So again, the Jones Trust proposal that we have as far as the grant from the Jones Trust is $50,000. Again, the playground came in at $61,781. We have a fence expense of about $31,0807, and then we have that concrete expense of about $7,360 from Burlington Construction. The total of that amount is $72,249.07 for the total playground. So again, that difference is $22,249.07 that we can either, again, we can use some district capital outlay to help offset that additional cost. And again, we trimmed down the playground project to get to that $72,249.07, or we can use the grant money that we have. Again, if it's a shared facility, that was the one thing I kind of wanted to try to, I guess, emphasize. It would be a shared facility for the elementary school to be able to use it for their 3 and 4 year olds. And we are adding an additional, hopefully, if we get our grant, an additional section of the KPP preschool, so that we'll have 3 year olds in the morning, 4 year olds in the afternoon, or vice versa. So it'll be an additional, hopefully an additional preschool section there, and that could create a strain on the playground that sits to the northwest corner of the elementary school. So anyway, any thoughts, and again, feel free to share.
And real quick, I don't know why that was on consent. It should not have been on. This is not an action item. It's showing that you guys voted on this. Shouldn't be there.
I wondered, I was like, where?
It is not on, this
So,
isn't an action.
Still, we just talked about this last time, about the northwest playground. I thought that was not, we're not talking about the northwest playground.
Okay, so the northwest playground there is used quite a bit at the elementary level again. So again, that area there is a kind of a shared playground.
The north playground has the playground and it has the fenced-in playground.
Yes.
That's where the 3 and 4 year olds play, is in that fenced-in area.
It's a small,
Connected to it.
Okay.
it's a very small area.
Because it has to be fit, they have to have fenced in area, but.
And that's the one with the rubber tires, I think?
Yes.
Okay.
And that has been an item that has come up over, again, the 5 years that since we've been here, since I've been here, about trying to improve that playground area. We just haven't gotten to that yet. It's not, like I say, it's not in horrible, terrible shape, but that playground at some point in time it needs some repairs, or I shouldn't say it's not in horrible, terrible, it's not in the best of shape, let's say that. It may need repairs, or at some point in time it may end up needing to be replaced. So anyway, I'm hopeful that it'll be quite some time before it needs to be replaced, and hopefully it just needs some repairs. Thoughts, other thoughts?
So I shared in our special meeting that Wolf Creek has donated $25,000 for this early learning center, and that they would have no issues at all with their donation going toward covering the difference between the Jones Trust grant to whatever the $73,000 would come out, a couple of $1,000 by the time we put the two of them together to totally cover that. That's something that they would have no stipulations about it. They don't mind if they put a sign up, or they would really pursue putting a sign up. But I think that donation is there to cover this cost. And we talk about the use between the school and the daycare and making sure that there's some input from the school district side with capital outlay money to put into this playground. But I think that's something we can manage even with this playground. It's just totally funded with grant money. I think that's something that I don't think that just the early learning center is gonna say, this is my grant money playground, you can't come on it. I think we can manage that.
And I,
Do you have a,
good.
do you have a plan, do you think you're gonna need that 25,000 from Wolf Creek for operational fund? Is that what you're thinking, so that we can make sure?
That, I will tell you this, that again, until we get the plumbing bid, and that comes tomorrow, guys, I don't know, I'm hopeful, I mean, I'm
You need it
hopeful
for
that
operational more than.
it could be operational, and again, it depends on, again, how many kids are, sign up.
Right.
We have the ability to go up to 72 children in the daycare because of a reconfiguration. Originally, we thought it was 59. Well, because of the configuration, again, we're truly with the daycare in some aspects, we're kind of building the plane as we fly it. Because with the adjustment of some of the rooms and the spaces and sizes, they have allowed us to go up to 72. So again, if we get 48 kids, it could be, a little tougher the first year to make it a budget neutral scenario. We may have to use some of that grant money or write other additional grants, which we've already talked about, write other additional grants to help support it. Again, if we get 55, 60, 65 kids, it becomes more sustainable, easily budget neutral, we feel like. Again, we don't know exactly how many kids that we're gonna have signed up. So having said that, yes, it could be the case. Again, it's your decision though, in regards to the direction.
So back to our spreadsheet of, what we're gonna get done this year, so if the money goes to this, then what are we gonna have to kick off that list and push down the road?
We would have to adjust something, you're right.
Yeah.
But it does benefit, not only, it does benefit the elementary kids in the pre-K. And it's not like we're asking to split this 50-50, it's a small number, but again, it's 22,000 and change.
So expensive.
So how much will the elementary kids and the preschool kids use it?
Right now, like the AM preschoolers take a 20-minute recess, and the afternoon preschoolers take a 20-minute recess.
So twice a day? Twice a day.
Well, actually 4 times, because we got 2 different
There's
sections.
2 sections.
Okay.
We've got
They're
our,
usually out there right now, and I think it's the same time.
so that's,
And so to do that, there has to be some coordination with the daycare. I assume so, because you don't want to intermix those kids, is that right? So,
Yeah, we wouldn't have
Yeah.
our kids out there playing. probably.
because of the space of the playground, it's not that we wouldn't want the kids to be together, there's a certain
well,
square footage for the
Just
playground.
coordinating, like classes. I mean, I like Lucas's idea that, it would be like, okay, our money or whatever money goes for certain things, and it is kind of nice to be like, yeah, the playground was helped paid for by whatever grant, doesn't have specific.
If
But I
you,
definitely see the point that if we're gonna need it for operational funds, and then we can use this for capital outlay, but like Selena said, I agree with that, like, what are we gonna put off? Not that we can't put something off, but. Anyway, just talking around in circles.
I know.
So you won't be able to use, if you don't use this for, capital outlay for the program, you won't be able to use capital outlay to fund something else for operation.
Right, for
be
operation.
at $22,000,
That's
we have to
where
look to
we're
adjust.
stuck.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
If you choose to go away from the capital outlay option, it just means that Haley and I, we're gonna have to make sure that we, like I said, well, first of all, the plumbing bid comes in tomorrow, guys, and if that's $95,000, that's gonna be a big world of hurt. If it's under $50,000, that's gonna make us feel a lot better. Who knows, if it's $30,000, if it's $60,000, if it's $90,000, that building's 100 years old.
So what you're saying, if the plumbing bid comes in high, then we need more capital outlay money?
No, we're gonna have to beat the bushes for additional grant funding, and we're gonna have to,
They're gonna need that money
Which is-
for that.
yeah, it's very
More
possible.
than likely capital outlay
Yeah.
money. Huh?
Can I say something?
Yeah?
Sure.
The only one major concern I have with this is that as a board and as being transparent as possible with our public,
Correct.
we've levied our capital outlay funds for K-12 education.
those capital outlay funds were levied at the time, 4 mills for the school, 1 mill for the renovations. Like, moving forward, if that's the direction of the board and the district, that we need capital outlay to sustain the daycare or the early learning program, I feel like we may be crossing a line with being open and honest with our public on how we're spending our funding currently.
And I will say
I agree
this,
with that.
and I'll say this tying with what Tracy has said. I agree with what she said. If there was no connection with the elementary school kids using that playground, I would not be saying we need to do this. But there is 80 minutes a day where they're gonna have a much better playground set up than they currently do now to be a shared facility, if you will. And
Well,
we
I don't think anyone's saying if it's just wholly grant funded, it can't be shared. Is that gonna be how this works?
No, I think what they're,
I mean, it gets the buy-in from the district, I guess, but, I don't know, I think that's.
well, if I understand it right, what you're saying is if we don't spend this capital outlay of 22 on the playground equipment, we don't have any money out there, to fund operational side of the daycare. And that's what you want to use
correct.
this money from for Wolf Creek.
Yeah.
And, but on the other side of that, we told the public that this is gonna be budget neutral, so.
And I want to emphasize, again, budget neutral to the general fund, because that was the concern that some staff members had. We were going to be taking money out of the general fund. And we said, yeah, that you're exactly
But also
right.
budget neutral, that it wasn't gonna be taken away from so-and-so getting carpet in their classroom. And,
Correct.
I mean, you know,
Correct. If there was no connection with the elementary school and them being able to use this playground for 80 minutes a day, then you're right, I'm not asking to do this.
right.
But there is that connection that could exist. And to kind of answer your question, Lucas, well, when we say, hey, listen, if the district doesn't kick in any money here, does that mean that the elementary school can't use the playground? Well, that's gonna be up to Haley and her staff in organizing and scheduling. If we do this, what I'm gonna do is make that directive to Haley, this needs to happen, where the schedules need to mesh, so that not only elementary school can use it, but also the daycare. If the funding isn't there, I mean, it's, again, if you as a board tell me that needs to happen, so be it. But, we don't have any support financially into this program. The kids at the elementary school are getting a benefit out of this, but we don't necessarily have a skin in the game as a board. So again, if you guys tell me that we need to not use capital outlay, and we need to have the elementary kids be involved in that playground, we'll make it work.
That's where I'm falling in on, is use the grant money. There's gonna be a lot of checks written for that daycare between now and the first playground check. And already dipping into capital outlay, which, I mean, like, as Lynn said, that's somebody's carpet or walls or something in their room. And if we think this is something we wanna hold on to that 1 mill for that expires this year, then we take that to the public and talk about it for the 4 mills and then 1 extra for the science room and gym. But as it started, it was budget neutral, and we're gonna get a bunch of grants.
Okay.
That's where I fall on. Does anybody else have any?
So,
I know a little bit on the other end, I feel like, I'm I kinda feel like we should use the capital outlay. We're not voting anyway, it's just, right, or we're voting. I'd like to save that grant money back for operational, just because running a daycare is so expensive and we have a ton of unknowns. We don't know how many kids we're gonna have. We know that everybody's gonna use that playground, and it takes a lot of money to run a daycare. I support a capital outlay idea.
And I'm gonna throw this out as another idea. You could table this until the April board meeting, and then we will have a better idea when the plumbing bids come in, because they come in tomorrow. That is an option. or you can decide what you wanna do today, that's an option too.
What do you
We
anticipate
can't,
the plumbing
so
coming?
the plumbing, couldn't be paid, I'm just talking out loud, couldn't be paid for, with some capital outlay funds since it's a building we maintain anyway?
Well, but we are renovating it for the daycare purposes, so to me, that doesn't benefit the
Everybody,
elementary
right.
kids. That's where my difference is with the playground.
I think we should table it.
I think table it. I don't really like the idea of taking it from capital outlay, to be honest. Even if we could get that number smaller, maybe I pay for half that 22,000 with grant and a half from capital outlay, I feel a little better, but I prefer to table it because I don't want to take it from capital outlay unless it's absolutely necessary.
Okay.
Okay, I think that sounds like where we're going. We'll get some bids in for the plumbing. That'll have a better idea going forward with the capital, or what the infrastructure bill of the daycare will be, and then we'll see how much early learning center, so. That'll see how much operational money we'll need.
You're supposed to open those tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yes.
When does the windmill retire or whatever?
2022. Okay.
Then we have a track. To go reimburse.
Well, we're gonna have to, track and,
Yeah.
So, next item on the agenda is personnel.
how long do you need?
Don't need any.
Oh, good.
Retirement?
Motion to accept the retirement request of Susie Beatty as a paraprofessional effective February 26, 2021.
Second.
Have a motion, second, everyone vote on your computers. And Mike, you still there? Aye. Aye. Motion passes 6-0. Next item's a budget item for local option state average increase.
Correct. So for a number of years, as it stated there, that the statewide average for local option budget has been 30%. KSDE has informed us that they anticipate the statewide average to increase to approximately 31. So with that, and that's for the during the 2020-2021 school year. So the final actual percentage, it won't be known until June. It just says, again, this increase will allow school boards to adopt an LOB as high as 31% for the 2021-2022 school year, again, without publishing a resolution subject to petition or protest. So again, you have that option basically because that state average is going from 30 to 31. If we were to, before, if it was set at 30 and we wanted to go at 31, 32, or 33, it would be subject to protest. With that being said, board's desire to look at the LOB authority to go to 31% for next year.
What's 30% do for us right now?
If it was based on this year's numbers, like our current LOB and general fund, it would have brought in an additional $75,000 to the LOB. It would only increase the mill levy about 0.15 of a mill, and only cost taxpayers about $1.73 a year. So it'll depend next year on what our general fund ends up being, but it could be fairly similar.
And is there a driving reason, I guess, that it's going to a state average of 31?
I think a lot of other school districts are having to use 31, 32, or 33 to make it through, their.
And they do that by resolution, that can be petitioned, right? And then since that average jumps up, we don't need that.
With that average jumping up with other districts going to 31, 32, or 33, that increases the statewide average. Yep, you got it right.
Gas alone.
No, yeah, I mean,
We just have
So
to.
having at my house,
Do we have to make a motion on that?
No, you just have to, we will officially approve the LOB later in the year, but we have a report we have to submit to the state where we have to at least, we can tell them what our number should be. It doesn't lock us in. So that's why we were discussing it. So if I do need to put in 31 in case we do plan to go to that, we have to put in what
essentially
our
like
highest.
our budget our published budget, we publish high and you can come back low, so we can always
Yeah, I can
publish to the state.
yeah,
for
I
everyone
can
that's
submit
still
this
under 30.
report and say 31, and then in, June,
Change it,
July,
decide,
if you
yes.
guys decide to stick with 30, we would do that.
Really, it's just getting us that authority.
It doesn't make any sense not to do it, is
Right.
exactly right. It gives us that authority, and we may or may not, depending upon how, the budget configures in the summer.
So I don't see any problem with it.
Other questions, anybody? Okay.
Negotiations?
Do we need 20 minutes?
I think we can go 20.
Motion to recess into executive session for 20 minutes to discuss certified contracts pursuant to the exception for employee negotiations, a comment to return to open session in this room at the end of that time, including Craig Marshall and Matt Superintendent.
Okay,
All in favor, opposed, vote on your computers. And Mike, executive session for negotiations? Aye.
Take straight here.
He just sent you on your way? He just sent you on your way?
Does anyone want to know who the
Yeah.
Are you out?
Yeah, did everybody leave?
No, I think they're back in Lindsay's,
Getting it. You end up getting one of those single tripods.
Just make sure it's not streaming.
It is, it's got, you can't, yeah.
I was lying.
Well, I think this is.
Thanks,
You're welcome.
You got the perfect shorts.
Okay, debriefing?
I appreciate that Haley came, sweetie.
Yeah, thanks for the adventure.
I want to thank and put it out there that I thank Dr. Faber for his time on the board and his service to the community in this district. I think he was a positive addition. Sorry to see him win. And just thank him for his time and his effort. Anything else? All right, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Sign.
Thank you, Dr. Thorpe.